2025 Park and Rec Master Plan. So Elizabeth, would you like to start?
So I'd like to say it's been 3 or 4 years ago, we started down the path. We did not have a master park plan. So we needed to have some sort of a blueprint for what are we going to do with taxpayer dollars, because it's our responsibility to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And we're talking about the 0.25% that's earmarked towards parks. So at the time, we wound up working with Drury University, and they gave us concepts of a master park plan, what we could do. From there, we went and hired PDS. It was put out to bid. We went through all the processes, we went through all the meetings, invited the public. We wound up at the Fall Fests introducing, so PDS was at the Fall Fest. We had over 300 residents of the city proper of Ashland put their voice in. They gave us 3 different renditions of what the park could look like, because we knew at this point, with the growth in Ashland, we need to do something with that park. We've got equipment that's failing, right? That's old, that needs to be replaced. We've got stormwater issues that we're putting good money in after bad. We've got vandalism that's happening. So how do we put more lighting, and how do we make this park a safe community park that everybody can use, including ADA, because we were not very ADA friendly. So with that, PDS gave us 3 different options, and we put that out to the community and asked the community to put your vote in. And they wound up voting for, I think it was option number 3. And with that, we moved forward. It's going to be phased. We knew that it was kind of when I say a rough draft, we knew there were going to be different phases, because we'd have to run, we'd have to do bids, we'd have to get grants. We knew what monies came in off the tax. We still have maintenance to do. And so to our knowledge, it was approved. It had everything from the master park plan was put into the overall city plan, right? And it wasn't until, I guess, what was the meeting that it got squashed? Do you?
April 7th?
Of 2025. Was it this year? 26. So, yeah. And so, so a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of thought, a lot of voices went into the park plan. So our question is, when I went back and watched the video of the meeting, the only thing that I heard was when they brought up about the master park plan was something about the pond, getting rid of the pond. People didn't want the pond to go. And it was the overarching voice of the city residents who wanted phase 3, where the pond, which costs us a ton of money to maintain, we would do something else with a water feature. It got squashed. So my question is, instead of just squashing the master park plan, would the board be open to having a conversation about what they liked and didn't like, as opposed to taking an axe to years worth of time and money and constituents' voices? Can we sit down and walk through and put a plan together that rebuilds the park, right? Makes it safe, adds lighting, fixes the walkways, fixes the bridges, makes sure that we have safe equipment for kids to play on, because right now it's old. And so that's our ask. Our ask is to the Board of Aldermen, how can we collaborate to come up with a plan that meets the needs of our growing, beautiful city of Ashland, growing forward, while doing it in a very mindful way of, and being good stewards of our taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer too, right? But being good stewards of everybody's money on that. So So that's my thought.
Yeah, so I was one of the two that voted against the plan. Initially, the issue that yeah, of course, there's people on Facebook that want the pond. I like the pond. Am I gonna go fish in the pond? No. But I'm not gonna fish anywhere, so it's not a big deal for me. The issue I had was it's gonna cost $8.1 million. And on a revenue stream of 150,000.
Last year was 167,000 total revenue. This year with increases and accounting for our new part-time person who's doing a great job maintaining, 150,000 might be on the high side of what we could expect to pay toward capital projects. So 150,000 even into the revamped ask of what, 2.5 million or 3 million. You're still looking at 10 plus years. And if you don't mind, I'll continue. One of the foundations was getting grants. The average LWCF grant is around $250-ish thousand. Seldom does anybody get awarded that more than once every 5 years. It's my understanding from talking to people that it's a 40%-ish award rate. Obviously, your bigger towns with the bigger populations, Columbia has gotten them all the time. Let's see. So there was the reliance on grants, the reliance on fundraising, where, as a city, we haven't done a lot of fundraising. We did get, was it Greg DeReese, the CO family donate the majority of the Perry Kimberly Drive Park.
They did.
Okay.
enjoy that.
So that's probably been our biggest donation, and that was land. And that's very typical that I've seen of parks where the biggest donation is usually land, which, we got plenty of land right now for the most part. And the third foundation of making this plan work was the idea that we could use our own people to do the work, which means that our own people couldn't do other work that they need to do as well. Because I'm sure, Kevin can speak up if he likes, our public works staff is busy. They don't have downtime, so them to peel them off to go do and to dredge, just to even clear out the pond and get it down to nothing and do a lot of the work. So for me, it was always financial. It was a park plan should have measurable things that we can deliver within 2 to 3 years, and certainly within 10 years. Anything that's going to take longer than 10 years is the dream stage. And in my opinion, as an older person, I can't vote for things that are dream. We have to have reasonable expectations based on that $150,000 in revenue. And I'm sorry that it sounds like there wasn't enough financial conditions, restraints talk very early on. So, because I think if that would have happened, I would think the consultant wouldn't have come back with $8.5 million, which he would divide by $200,000 a year, which would be very high. What it is now, we're looking at 45 years to do a parks plan. And I did look up Maplewood, and their current park plan's about $4.5 million. They get about $1.7 million for their parks and stormwater, which is the same half set as ours. So we're looking at 5 times the revenue the parks gets there at Maplewood with a much smaller parks plan. So, and of course, that was that box stores. Maplewood did a great job getting box stores into Maplewood historically. Good job on that. Anyway, so that's where, I'm coming from, is that, I'm a numbers person. I'm that numbers nerd. I need to see something that we can accomplish over the next 2 to 3 years. Certainly playground equipment, I agree 100% of that. That needs to be done. The pond, people are attracted to water. That's why we go to the oceans and the beaches. I don't go into the water, but I like to look at it. I like to go visit it, So, people like water. Even, like I told our good friend of the park, Scott Dooley, who cares if the park doesn't have fishing very good? He's a avid fisherman, but we like to look at it. We like to sit on the bench looking across. We like to walk by it. It's nice. And the other thing is, you know, our new park over at Kimberly Drive and Cape Perry that Sullivan and Romaine pushed hard in 20 or 21 to spend $45,000 to get that last little bit of land underneath the water to go down. We have all that and that.
Yeah, we own
that
the,
plan-
we own that pond.
I know,
We own that lake.
and that's
It's
a
not a
thing.
pond, it's a lake.
Yeah, it's a
Sorry,
lake.
it's a lake. We
Yeah.
own that.
But that's another issue, like, none of this park master plan had any thing for that park, if you wanna call it a park, pond, lake, that we just spent, you know, a decent amount of money on just, 5-6 years ago. I forget exactly what year it was. Leslie might remember.
It was about 4 years.
It's
Well,
more,
yeah.
it's 4 or 5.
I know it was Richard's last year, so when did that have been Reese?
22, 21.
21, all right, doesn't matter exactly, but it's still pretty recent. So, you know, I like to see something, attention given to that area as well.
So-
But who knows if it's even possible and what that would even cost.
So, our city park falls under the watershed. And, so I would ask, have you done any kind of research for grants that have to do with the watershed, because that's protected?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, the problem with that watershed, it goes all the way up at the Bass.
I understand, but
And-
we still,
I know,
it still falls under the watershed.
I know.
So if in fact there are benefits to us as the city of Ashland, we should go after every benefit for the sake of our building fourth-class city. That's really important. But I would say that, it was supposed to be done in phases, and according to my notes, the first packet had a total fee of like 260,000 plus reimbursables, with phase 1 improvements estimated at about 3.6 million.
Yeah.
And so, again, I think that instead of just squashing something, maybe tabling it and saying, let's come back to the table and let's do what we're doing here. Because again, that talk is for everybody in the city of Ashland, and it needs some help, right? As I said, it costs a lot of money to maintain that pump in that pond, and Kevin, you could speak to that.
Oh, yeah.
We're spending a ton of money maintaining that, and then it's the stuff that's growing in the pond.
Algae, yep.
Right.
We've spent a lot of money on algae side, a lot of labor. We actually have to screen that algae off. There are a lot of maintenance issues with the pond itself, and the pond as it exists now actually needs to be improved because it needs to have a larger storm effluent drain. It's got a 4, it needs a 6. You've seen this year where the pond will actually overcome the road to about midpoint of the road. We have to add fill there again. That is because the drain that basically the overflow for that pond is too small. I don't know if you're asking my opinion about the whole thing or just.
No, I mean, I
Just
think,
the pond?
so again, it was not, first of all, the numbers that you saw were not, we never decided on the level of equipment. That was at the very high end, right? Because when we did this, we said, look, if you're gonna go big or go home. So at the most, it would cost us this if we put this level of equipment in. We have to pay attention to the ADA aspect, our community, our ADA community within Ashland. They don't have space to be able to be uniquely them. So how do we do that, right? Where do we create space for everybody? The lighting in it, the constant vandalism. So we wanted to do it in phases. It wasn't meant to be $8 million all in one shot. It was done in phases, but it didn't mean that 3.6 million was gonna be the final answer. There was still a lot to be discussed during it, and we never had that opportunity. So I just asked for the opportunity. How can we take the master park plan and salvage some things that improve this park and give the community what they need? So I don't know, Rick, you've been around a long time, and you haven't aged a bit, by the way. I said to Hannah, I'm like, man, you still looks the same. So you've been around for quite a while on the board. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I think the master plan was an excellent idea to do. I think, like you said, it was kind of the go big or go
Yeah.
home type of thing. I don't know that everyone understood that it wasn't an all or nothing.
Right.
You know, it's, if it could be done in phases, smaller phases, so that we're not putting ourselves in a financial burden, that would be the way to go. Quite frankly, the only complaints that I've, other than the cost,
Right.
has been the pond.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've had several people, you know, confront me about, you know,
Yeah.
not wanting to get rid of it, want to keep it. I've been there. I'm not a fisherman either, you know, so, but I've taken my grandkids to the annual
Yeah.
fishing park. I don't think they caught anything, but it's just a calming influence, especially when it's right by the Veterans Memorial. So I would think, money-wise, you know, making the improvements to the pond should be a lot cheaper than completely draining it and having to do all the fill and relocating the playground area or whatever.
Yeah, because that playground area gets destroyed every time there's a hard rain. It all gets washed out.
Right.
So we're constantly spending good money knowing that whole area is just gonna get washed out. I mean, so,
Yeah, that is the elephant under the carpet here. In any storm plan, if you go with the master plan, if you don't go to the master plan and just go with bullet point improvements, that storm project has to happen first.
that's right.
I don't know if you've ever seen it, in a good rain, several times this year. That water goes across, down College Street. It's meant to kind of turn a corner, it doesn't. The flow is unbelievable, it would almost knock you over, and it goes straight through, across the sidewalk to the left of the old bathrooms. And as it's been said here, we put mulch down last year and it was 2 days and it was gone because of a rainfall.
Right.
And it's like, we're stuck on stupid a little bit, to be honest, and we have to do it because the request is made, it's not safe, the level of mulch there doesn't meet standards for safety, and yes, there's a safety standard even on mulch. Before we do anything, I really think we gotta tell you what to do, but we gotta focus on fixing that storm issue. If you fix the storm issue, you could move forward with other plans like adding playground equipment to do anything before that storm issue is fixed. You're just destroying whatever you put in there, at least on that side.
That's right. And we were trying to address all of the issues in an overarching plan, again, which was adopted into the overarching cities plan. So, you know, none of this was ever done in a vacuum. This was done with the voices of the city and the community. So again, I just ask that, and I would love to, you know, our board members here, I know you have a difference of opinion, which I found out, but, because this is your opportunity to say it. If you don't agree, say it. Don't stay off the record and not do that. But this is our opportunity to work together and put together a plan that really helps our community. Because the park is worth fixing and investing in it. But how do you want to do that?
And the phases were very incomplete.
Right.
If you read the documents, we have to address the stormwater first, then we move forward with the playground equipment, which is probably the least expensive of all the grant things, and the lighting as well, so.
Right.
Yeah, when
I
it got,
have a question. I cannot be quiet, I'm sorry, but I did attend the last meeting when we talked about the park and the $6.7 million, and I saw such shocked look on people's faces that I was in awe. I love the park. I don't People love the pond. You see older folks out there walking around. I've seen a couple people fall because it needs repairs. And I do want to see repairs, and I want to see them keep the pond. People love that pond. And going ahead, what would it take to repair the pond? That is something people love in this community. And take care of the little things first before we worry about the great big picture. And I've heard that from many people that live in Ashland.
So I think that's what part of the problem was. And I've been on the park board for a long time. And part of the problem was, they would do piecemeal here, do piecemeal here, do piecemeal here. There was never a master park plan. You wouldn't build a house without a blueprint. Right?
No, but I couldn't afford a $6 million house.
Well, no, but you wouldn't, but the point is, you would never build a home without a blueprint. So we can come up with a blueprint. It doesn't have to be $6 million, whatever that looks like. Again,
I think that was what overwhelmed so many folks, was when the engineers walked in with that big project on the wall and saw all this, it overwhelmed folks.
yeah, I think there were only 10 people out of the community that showed, unfortunately. I wish it was more representative of the 300 people who actually voted for that out of the community, because that's the most engagement we had ever had. You know what I mean? To get the community engaged, that's what this is about. This is about hearing your voices. You know, and for us, we want to be good stewards of the funds, but we also have to think about it in a holistic way, because if we keep doing the piecemeal bits, we're spending good money after bad. If we can just fix it right the first time and build it in phases, that's our better way to go. Again, I heard the same thing, Rick, and to your point, that people are upset. Look, I presented to the Optimist Club and I brought my shield in with me.
Well,
And I say that with love, but I get it. Yeah, that's right, you were there. And I understand that. And I say that we intentionally purchased the lake to be able to create something bigger where people can fish and they can put maybe little boats, you know, in there. And there would be a bridge. So this here was, if we were gonna put money, we were gonna do it in one spot first and then go to the next, and then go to the next. And so that's how we landed where we are, just for transparency. You know, in the guidance we were given, do it, but do one at a time. Don't do 12, it's like doing 12 projects at your house and nothing ever gets done. We wanted to be able to make sure that that park was solid for a long time and that everybody in this community could use it. And current state, not everybody gets to, they pay their taxes on it.
Sure they do.
But they do not get the opportunity to use that the same way, you know, people who are who are differently abled, right? They can't use it the same way those of us who are ambulatory can use it. And we've got to do better as a community to serve all of our constituents and not just those that are not differently abled.
I think it's, first of all,
I was on the park board originally, 40-some odd years ago. We didn't pay $40,000 to have people come in and tell us how to fix our park and how to plan it, okay? We didn't spend a huge fortune. Also, on the vandalism, don't we have police in this town that can monitor the park? What's the problem?
I can't answer that. That you'll have to talk to the police chief on that. But in terms of us needing professionals to come in and do this the right way, we put out to bid to contract. And I will tell you, PDS, this is what they live and breathe every day. They don't just dabble in parks. They build parks. And they gave us information for communities of our size, right? Again, this wasn't done in a vacuum. This was done out in the open with everybody being allowed to have a voice. So again, I'm asking, how do we move forward? I'm gonna ask the board, how do we move forward? Yes, please.
I live right by the park. I I did not know all this was going on. It was her who told me that I need to get involved. She lives way out of town, but out on Y, 3 miles or 4 miles. But I didn't know anything about it. And I'll tell you one thing, who can't use the park? You said something about, who is it? I've seen people over there in wheelchairs, you know, they have someone pushing them, but they're out there in wheelchairs.
And it's not safe.
Going
We do
around.
not have safe enough walkways, safe enough lighting. We have to be able, we don't even have good equipment for somebody who falls under the ADA laws to use that. So we've got to do better. And in all fairness, I'm not here to argue about it. I'm here to say, how can we, between the park board and the board of aldermen, come together and put a plan together? Take whatever's good out of here that everybody likes and come up with a plan to help get that park in a state that everybody can use, and that we're not gonna continue to put good money in after bad. So we do have issues that have to get fixed.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I don't want to diminish the work that the park board did. I know a lot of years went into it. I know a lot of time and effort, and I know that you all would probably rather be home right now than being here. I think the issue, you know, we have the overall plan. You know, some people agree with the pond, some people agree to take it out of the pond. The issue that I see, even on phase 1 of over $3 million, at our current revenue, it's gonna take 15 years to complete. I mean, that's obviously if we don't fundraise or get any grants.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But still several year process. I, for one, would like to see the stormwater issues addressed first. I don't know what that is gonna cost us.
I could see it, roughly 40 to 50,000.
Yeah, it's not a big ticket.
Yeah.
There's a way around any massive project. It's not a hard problem to fix, honestly. $40,000 is a number I've heard recently. I was talking to a stormwater coordinator a couple times this year on site, and it's not that big a hill to climb.
What's the scope of that work?
The scope of the work is basically catching that water on College
I was to say higher up. Right.
and turning it and putting it into the creek rather than having it go in a straight line, which is what it wants to do, is catching it. And we got to get an easement, which I think could be done. A little bit of property and turning the water. If you can imagine, when you're going to the old bathrooms, the mural. Okay, well, that water's got to make a hard 90. It's got to go left, and we got to intercept it into the creek back here. Instead of what it's doing now, it's just going straight downhill and going around the bathrooms, and then it turns again, it goes across the sidewalk, erodes that area, and then washes through the mulch as a bonus, takes all the mulch with it, and it goes downstream. So it's basically taking all that water and making a hard left and putting it into the creek over here where the parking is down there. It's not that big of a project, really. It's funny, it's never been done.
So you say 30 to 40, so we can expect 80 to 100.
No, I don't think so. I mean, those are estimates, right? It depends on when you bid it out. You bid in summer, you bid in winter. All those things are part of the pie, but.
But I'm just saying, like, if we're shooting for the moon here, let's just say, we're gonna say 100. I mean, that's a year worth of tax revenue right there. I agree. I think that I mean, I don't know about the rest of the board. I can't speak for them. I think safety has got to be the next priority behind the stormwater. And then obviously we want new playground equipment. I know our children would like that. But we got to take care of stormwater. We got to take care of the safety element. And which I know we put up cameras at the bathroom, so hopefully that helps with vandalism.
Well, and light, Kevin, we talked about if we can get lighting, more lighting, right? Throughout the park, because right now it's really dark.
Mhm.
So it's hard to see who's doing what. So,
Isn't the park supposed to be closed at 9 o'clock or something like that? It used to have a sign up, park closed at 9 o'clock.
Yep, the signs are back up. They were gone and they were
They're back.
reinstalled.
Kevin, how much of the say we fix the stormwater issues, how much of that would help with the pond, maintenance? Obviously, you're gonna have to buy, you're still gonna have algae, I mean, that's just fresh water for you.
The pond, the check comes due in the pond about every 10 years, so leaves, grass, build up. It has to be, just like a storm pond, it has to be drained and dredged, and it has to be done now, actually. The bio growth in there is really thick. There's a layer of sludge down the bottom. The fountain does help for the dissolved oxygen, but it's still, like, it can't overcome that now. It needs to be done now, to be honest. And so just going forward, the pond is a maintenance on it for sure. I'm not gonna give my opinions on it, but it is a maintenance issue. In that storm project, I figured in about $5,000 to $6,000 in-house. That would be part of it, putting as far as the overflow, at least to keep it from coming over the trail that circles around the pond. That would be part and parcel of the storm project, the smaller part of it. It's not technically a storm device. It's not part of the stormwater system. It is a feature of the park.
But that
However-
80 to 100 would cover dredging and the stormwater issue.
No, the dredging, that's big dough. And it's
So that's so now we're 2
bypassing,
to 3 years in the tax money.
yeah, I'm gonna be honest, dredging's expensive, and that's where the ponds work against you. They are nice to have, they're nice to look at, it's a great feature. However, one, it takes up a lot of your real estate, right? It's a small park, it's trying to do a lot of things for a lot of people. It takes up a significant amount of the park. The other part is that every so often, the check is due and you gotta drain that and dredge it. Or you get the conditions that we have every year where the algae just fires up as soon as the heat comes in. Yes, sir.
Back to the stormwater, what you're proposing, is the area between the football field and the dog park and the other area, does that portion of the stormwater creek, does that have enough capacity to handle more? If what you say is fixed, because isn't part of the problem that we also have off Sunshine Drive is that also goes into the same creek that eventually ends up on Front Lane
Yes,
in the Bass Creek watershed
Yeah.
that goes up to the north.
Whole
In
separate issue.
northwest.
All that water, every drop is gonna end up in that creek.
Right.
What we're trying to do is just divert it around the park and it's the affected.
So this
areas.
just takes care of the water going over the park or the
Yeah.
parking
Over the
lot and
bird
sidewalks.
That's
The
right.
park from destroying itself, basically, keeping the water out of this, like, the flow vector goes right through the playground area, and that's what it's fixing. It doesn't fix
Okay.
anything downstream, all that water's gonna end up in the same place.
And the second question is, in the two current playgrounds, can we do any sort of French drainage or any sort of drainage to where when the water lays there, it goes down and out and into the creek versus washing, building up in there and then washing over, was it railroad ties, I think,
Yeah.
over the wall?
It
Is
just
that-
literally runs down. So-
Right.
So there's not, the
Instead of
French
going
drain
down-
isn't, it's not even like it gets in there and sits and a French drain can catch it. It literally, the force is so intense that it washes it away.
Yeah.
Right,
Like it'll take you off your feet if you.
Right.
right. This is surface run, it runs straight
Right.
through it. It's not like a French drain issue. It wouldn't, the drainage in itself, the park would just be minor as far as flattening out if we expanded an area for like a 6 to 12-year-old, and then smaller and up.
Right.
You carve that out and had to expand that, the grade in there is not that bad. It's just, again, the bigger issue is just keeping the water out of that area and just diverting it with that smaller storm project.
And this diverting would keep the water out of the two playground areas. in my
Correct,
opinion.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I know the original plan, or the plan was to pretty much make that whole creek area and the current playground area is more of a stormwater catch basin-ish type of
Yeah, we wanted to
function.
move the
Right.
playground area a little bit farther out of the way so that it wouldn't get destroyed. And it would just, it would be on a flatter plane. It just would have been a nicer place to use that land
Yeah.
past it, so.
And one last question I probably don't have the answer for, but if you could figure out assuming, not including the dredging, but what kind of annual cost do we have to keep the pond operating, the outside electric pump repairs? I don't expect you to know that, but if you can get back, just, I don't think people would mind spending $5,000, $10,000 a year to keep. the
It's not
pond.
that high.
Yeah.
It's, probably 1,700, doesn't sound like a lot, but that's actually a pretty good portion. We don't have a robust storm park maintenance budget.
Right, oh, I'm aware of that.
It's a good chunk.
Right.
1,700's a lot.
And I want to make sure that the park tax goes to the park and the 0.25 goes to stormwater. So that way we're not taking funds out of the park, allotment to fix stormwater. So,
Well, there was one year we took 2/3 of that tax in order to do the last grants for the ballpark and the
Yeah.
baseball. So the board can from time to time, I'd like to keep it 50-50 all the time.
if possible, right.
Yeah, there better be a really, really good reason. Like I
Absolutely.
said, there was the one year where they did 2/3 to park and 1/3 stormwater to get that grant.
Right.
Which was like, I think, $51,000 grant. That was gotten in 21, I believe. I know COVID kind of slowed that process down a little bit. But you're right, it is 50-50, and like I said, last year, according to our audit, it was $167,000 in revenue last year.
Yeah, because if we keep diverting that, we'll never get that park
Yeah.
up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's fix the stormwater, let's fix what we need to. But I think we, in a collaboration, can come up with something that will work. I really do. I mean, and if that's not it, that's fine, because everybody here is new. But let's put our heads together and work to make something good come out of this. Because a lot of people use that park, and again, I agree with you, safety, stormwater safety,
So,
Krishna, I just want to say I'm really heartened to hear this discussion, coming back to sort of a less is more sort of focus rather than this bigger plan that was proposed. I really appreciate the comments and hearing the support for keeping the pond. Because when you talk about like the safety and the wellness of the community, I would just like to say that that east end of the park is really a gem. It is so much cooler in the summer. I mean, it is amazing over there, and people do come, like, actually people stop in Ashland on purpose when they're going back and forth, because they know that there's a little oasis over there that they can come and hang out, and I've seen people come and get lunch and they take it there, and, I really, I'm a self-reported sort of wellness nerd, I guess you could say. I've, worked in education, I've worked in healthcare, and childcare, and we know the studies are out there that say that having access to nature and the outdoors is very important to all, our well-being in general. And, our neighborhoods are really not designed to support like having trees and nature and all that stuff. So this park is really the only easily accessible place that our community has without having to make a day trip to like go to one of the state parks or whatever. I mean, having it outside of our back door is, and the proximity to the schools and everything, it's really worth, and I'm not saying that you didn't put time into it, because you obviously did, but I really think it's worth slowing down and taking a look at this, and I'm really glad to see this conversation happening.
Yeah, well, that's why we wanted the community's voice. And literally, it was the community that decided that phase, not the park board.
Yeah.
But I hear you, I hear you, and I appreciate the comments, because that's what we want as a park board.
Right, and I think that feedback that you got, something happened in the communication around that, because having 300 responses, I'm sure it was very, like, absolutely, like it was like juicy in a way,
Well, it was
But then
just
when I-
nice that the community
Right.
actually said, hey, we want to be a part of this,
Right.
and they did, so.
But then
yeah.
when I started talking to other people, like, hey, did you hear about the thing you talked, and then people were like, no, I didn't even know that was happening. So I don't know where this.
Yeah, see, and
disconnect
I don't know if they live in the city of Ashland proper,
Yeah.
if they don't, because if they don't, they're not paying taxes, so the people, and
Yet.
well, I won't go down that path, but I'm just saying that the people who pay taxes, who get a voice, they're the ones that voted for it. The park board didn't. The park board actually fought to get the community's voice heard.
Yes,
And so, yeah, and so that was important for us. But again, I appreciate that, because we do want to collaborate and find a way forward. Instead of just nixing it and throwing everything, the baby out with the bathwater, how can we find something that we can move forward in?
Agreed, yeah. And the path, the walking path, the playground, the stormwater, leaving the pond, keeping that little that little island there, like those 4 things I think are just really forefront in most people's minds right now. If you can get those 4 things cemented, like that's a huge impact, and I think it would go a long way. And this is just coming from me, a long way from sort of restoring some faith in this whole process and the approach. So, thank you.
Great, thank you,
Good
appreciate
job.
that.
If you get lunch,
Well, I'd like to ask a question real quick, everybody,
Yeah.
but I mean, are we all in agreement that the stormwater issue needs to be resolved, right? I mean, that seems like we all.
Well, it keeps
moving toward that.
destroying that.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, if you go there, there's
Right.
a
Yeah.
river that you can see even when it's not raining, that it's comes to the park, right?
Absolutely.
So we're in agreement on that. We're in agreement that we need to address the safety issues, right? I
Correct.
mean, for the most part. And personally, I'd like to see us upgrade the playground equipment. Maybe not right away, but down the road. So it seems like we have a good launching off part from this. So I know for me, looking at this and for the constituents I've heard from, the cost is a major factor. I mean, the fact that we can't just address this, move forward with it over the next 30 years, ideally is part of the problem. So I feel like we have a good launching point to move forward from here. And there's some good stuff in here for that specifically. So,
Yeah, because the groundwork's been laid, right? All all the work that PDS did is right there for us to use. You know what I mean?
we paid for it, we should
That's
use it
right.
when we can. So
That's right.
that's my 2 cents. So I feel like we have a good ground to move forward from here. So how do we get there? What's the next step?
we have to adopt the master plan with the contingency that we lessen the equipment and all that, you know, as far as that, but we have to have a starting point.
So would it be fair to potentially, since PDS has already been hired as the vendor on this, give them what the scale back is and let them come to us with, if we were to do this, this, and this, and this is what it would cost? Or is that something we can do in-house? Because I'm of the mindset of, let's let the professionals who do that for a living do it, and then let our folks, if that's the case, you know, Kevin and you and your team can do some of the work, then we do that. But if we're going to put that type of a plan together, and they've already done this work, and it's not gonna cost us a whole lot more to have them say, look, this is what we would do, draw it up. I mean, it's just a suggestion.
I think that would be the key right there, is like, what additional would they charge us? You
Right.
know, it's like, they've already presented us
Yeah.
with something that obviously is not acceptable, you know, to the board because of the cost. It's like, how much flexibility do they have? How much pride in their work do they have that says, yeah, that what you gave us was great for pie in the sky, but we've already paid you a lot of money. What can you give us that's realistic?
Yeah, we can go back to them
And so,
and ask them.
What do we define as realistic?
And I think Mike had a good point, like 5 to 10 years. So like if you guys have $167,000 a year, like what can you give us in the 1.5 or the $1 to $2 million range that gets that accomplishes most of the goals, but it's not this, $8 million pipe dream. So like a realistic, where we're not like, oh, well, we might be able to do this because we get grants, but like this is what we actually can do in the next 10 years with the money we have.
I don't think we need to redo a park plan. This plan was adopted a year ago. I don't think we have to do anything. These things changed here, CIP plan from 21 had a whole bunch of money in for the new park. That never happened, obviously.
Yeah.
I think stormwater is the first issue. I think we asked Kevin to come back with a proposal that takes care of the stormwater issues that we've talked about here. Do your best to come up with some costs, present it to us for, to prove it or not. That's all part of the plan already. We don't need anything special. We don't need to spend any more money with PDS. Also give us a cost of what it would take to fix the pond right to where within a year from now, the pond's as perfect as it can get. And then we go from, those are two things from there. Then once we get that done, then we can look at, well, what's the cost for 2 new playgrounds? I know they're not cheap. I ran across this
Oh,
little
there.
town in Iowa that got a $300,000 playground for $150,000 because the company built it for Marion, Indiana, and made it the wrong colors. So this
I like it.
town,
Yeah.
Steel-
We're all about crashing.
Steelville, I don't know, some town in Iowa, little town like you would see in a movie, they paid it
So
$150,000.
PDS was willing to help fundraise, as part of that. Not necessarily their total strong suit, but they were willing to help. And again, grants and.
Yeah, well, like I said, the grants, you could expect $200,000 every 5 years, but that's usually a 50-50 match, and that's for one particular project. So you want to break this down to a bunch of smaller projects in order to try to
Well, that's why
maximize
we
that.
want to make sure we can
Yeah.
know what grants we're
Now,
entitled to.
second, yeah, the LWCF is all pretty, their website's really good. They have a really good guide. They have video webinars you can watch that. They're pretty good. And of course, we got one of those just a few years ago, back when James Creel was the director. And so that was $51,000. So, secondly, as far as the fundraising goes, I have a lot of time right now. And I have searched up and down hard for Missouri communities who've been able to fundraise. And every time I find someone, I try to reach out to them. I try to reach out to Kimberly City, and no one knows any idea.
Codis, Missouri,
Potosi?
that. You can tell I'm
Okay,
not.
I'll
from
check
there.
that out. And
Potosi,
Yeah.
they raised $7 million.
Okay.
And I know that for a fact because I spoke to them about what we were doing, and this is a little bit ago, but they raised $7 million,
Okay.
so Potosi.
well, that we need,
$7
we need to see that this is, available. How many municipalities are there in the state of Missouri? You probably know this.
I can't, in the state of Missouri,
How many?
600 plus.
Okay, so if 600 plus, so they're all doing various, they all want to fundraise, they all want grants and so things like that. And schools are involved with the LCF grant as well as counties. I mean, that's open to a lot wider people. So you're looking at, I think there's another 500-600 schools out there as well. So now you're talking 1,200 potential people going for that one grant. And they do about 8 to 10 or so per year, give or take. Some are more, some are less. And so, I need, again, I'm a numbers guy. I need to see what is our probability of doing that. And, I know what they are for the LWCF grant. It's there, we want it, it's not gonna make or break. So again, with that $150,000 that we have available for funding right now, based on today's numbers, what's within 10 years, what's 1.5? I think we have $500,000 or so. You know this at all? No, I should, I'm sorry.
So, but you were saying something about, Veterans United?
Well, just thinking of companies and organizations that are really looking to produce that kind of
Right.
donation.
Yeah, BU donates money all
A
the
lot.
time, yeah.
All over, yeah.
Open Hands got a grant from them.
That's what I was gonna mention, is, you were kind of just focusing on one source.
Right,
But,
there's,
if we have access to a good grant writer
mhm.
that knows where to look, for instance, you probably know, I taught special education for 30+ years, and so, the accessibility to playgrounds was a real high priority. Through the Lions Club, they have grants available for up to 50% of playground equipment if it is directed toward a disability.
Right.
And we have,
So,
sorry to interrupt, but we've had multiple families actually attend the parks meetings to express their concerns and
Right.
mhm.
hopes for new equipment.
Right. So, we don't want to just try and rely on one source of
Absolutely.
grants.
100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
But they gotta be reliable. For us to vote to go forward with anything, for me personally, if you're gonna want me to commit to $1.5 million, I need, realistically, I have to have a pretty good idea that that money's gonna come forward in the next 10 years. So,
Just as worth noting, I just texted Kip, the Y is 2.8 million is what they fundraised. Now, can we get 2.8 out of the community again? I don't know. But just for reference, that's what the Y.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And I feel like you could take the master plan that you have and say, look, this is what it's gonna cost. Like, to get the board to approve it, we need you guys to come and like start the fundraising so that we have an idea before we go ahead and, approve an $8 million project. We have an idea of where, like, you guys spend a month fundraising and you got $5 million. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, like, you're gonna raise the
That's a
money and keep
no-brainer,
going, right? But if, like, so you guys have the plan, you take, like, we can start the fundraising, and I think everybody on the board would be happy to, throw some weight behind trying to help you fundraise, and say like, hey, if we can raise this money, the board's ready to like give us this wonderful park, as
Yeah.
long as we save the pond, because the pond was.
Yeah, because, I mean, we're not asking
But-
anybody to rubber stamp something. We're saying, like, let's work together to find a move, and I think to your point, we do have a plan, we have a start of a plan, right? That we can do that, and I guess,
We paid for this plan,
absolutely,
so we should use what we can. out of it.
that's right, absolutely. So I guess we would, do you want me to reach out to PDS? Who reaches out to PDS?
Well, we wouldn't reach out to anybody right now, we just had to start the fundraising process and see where we're at.
Well, I can see
well-
it's kind of a catch-22
Exactly,
also
yeah.
because,
Yeah,
We
in
can't-
order to start a fundraising,
gotta have something.
you've got to tell them
Plan.
what you're raising the funds
Well, I mean,
for. And
Stormwater,
if it is
safety.
too general, you're not gonna get anywhere, so.
I think the ADA route is a good route, because again, our community needs it, and there are funds available to help with the ADA, so, but I agree, we've gotta have something, and even if we ask PDS to, we share with them what this discussion was and ask them to scale it, obviously we'll ask them what they'll charge us to do it, but it doesn't hurt to have that conversation to say, this is what the community's thoughts are, and what is it gonna cost us for you to draw this up for us?
I don't even think should be opposed to fundraising in phases, right? Like, hey, we want to fix the stormwater, we want to make it ADA safe, we want to add lighting, this is what it's gonna cost, this is what we're fundraising for. I think going to people and say, hey, we're trying to build an $8 million park, this is what we're fundraising for, I think
That seems too nice.
Yeah.
yeah, and so like, if we can, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it is created to be in phases, and I think that's why we were so surprised that it was just eliminated in the April meeting, because my understanding was that we were taking those.
But you're still
initial
asking
steps.
for $2.5 or $3 million.
In phase one.
That again, there's only $150,000 that we know for sure that we could realistically get. The rest, again, falls on you getting grants or donations or getting Kevin's group to, they're not doing anything so they can do the work, which Kevin disagreed with me of that on last night's meeting.
Yeah,
So-
Kevin's not very busy, right?
So can we not approve it in phases?
Well, but
I know that's not how.
But
it's
again,
presented.
I'm not gonna approve $2.5 million phase right now, because that's 15
Well,
years plus to get done based on current funding levels.
But we have to determine, what is it gonna cost us to make these changes? Right now, we're talking in hypotheticals, because you gave us a bit of like, what, 50 grand was
Storm, yeah,
for storm, but that wasn't everything.
that's us doing it.
That's a no-brainer that we can
So,
can do now.
so I think we need to come up with, what is it gonna cost us to do the minimum to get the park in a condition that we can start doing improvements to it?
Okay.
So again, it's the chicken and the egg,
Well,
how do you
Okay.
wanna start?
how about put that in writing, what that checklist would be? What gets you to where you'd like to be the bare minimum? Check that list off, and then ask PDS or whatever it's called, how much would it cost for you to get?
I think we need to
Moderate
come up with what the
cost.
bare minimum is.
That's what I'm saying. You
Yeah.
guys come to us,
Yeah,
tell us what
yeah.
your bare minimum. We talked about stormwater, we talked about the playgrounds, ADA features, the pond,
Yeah, we
obviously.
just wanna be able to
So-
come to you and not do all this work, have all these conversations, and then we don't have an entire conversation, because again, I'm gonna go back to what I listened to. There was no real discussion like we're having now. Literally, that conversation talked about, people wanted the pond, okay, we disagree and we're gonna shut it down. This needed to happen. right?
Yeah.
Before we shut it down, this conversation needed to happen. Because then we could have at least started to kind of work, we'd be months ahead.
No, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
But for us coming in new.
Yeah,
being a
exactly.
And it being an $8 million.
In fairness.
Yes, I mean, it's sticker shock.
wholeheartedly, we're good with that.
I also think like, I disagree with the idea of like shutting it down, like, because if we vote to approve it, then like it's harder to go back. If we say, no, hold on, pump the brakes, like, and we'll approve something else, like, we can go back and revisit it, but once we've approved it, then like everybody, like, okay, now everybody's like, oh, well, we're getting an $8.5 million part. So like, we have to be responsible to say, no, we're not gonna put the rubber stamp on this whole big project. Like, let's figure out what it is. And I think everyone is willing, like, I think we were all in agreement, like, we want to do something, but we can't just say, yes, like, and that vote was particularly to approve the whole thing all at once. And we weren't going to do that, knowing that the whole thing, A, wasn't going to happen, and B, was disfavored by a lot of members of the community.
Because I think it's worth noting, if we would approve this whole plan, rubber stamped it, and we would have been, I don't know them personally, they look very, very nice. But they might have thrown eggs on my house if I got rid of the pond.
You're right.
But,
And again, I'm gonna go back to, nobody, when we marketed this, and when I say marketed it, when we communicated this out in all different ways to the community, to have over 300 people, unique people, not, unique people, vote for this. We did something right in terms of the communication. We did get it out to the community. Because that was the most we had ever had in terms of engagement.
That's all great, but if you tell people, look at all these wonderful things we can do, but not even
But
think
they
about the
voted for it.
cost.
They voted for the cost. We didn't, we had a meeting
They knew it
here.
would take 50 years to do?
No.
Everything was
No.
laid, everything was laid out.
No.
Everything was laid out in the open. 10 people showed up to that meeting. So to be internet warriors, right, is one thing.
Wow.
I'm glad that people are here, which have the voice, be here. But over 300 people voted for this. So
I mean, we
I
keep
just,
coming back to the 300 number, but like, let's put that in perspective. That's 6% of Ashland. Like,
that's right, but that's more than,
And how many of those
that's
were?
more than who shows up. And that's where, we couldn't say to the rest of Ashland, well, look, we're gonna wait for you to, show up. You can't do that. Everybody had their time frame. We communicated it out, not just once, not just twice, like 10 different ways. We were out in the park at Fall Fest. We held meetings here. So again, to move forward, I think that we need to figure out what is the cost of bare minimum, right?
Now we're talking my language.
Baby steps.
And
You
so.
should already know that.
So, well, we did know that, and we did go forward. Everything was done in a phase. Again, this was not done in a vacuum, all right? Everything was done in incremental phases to do this. And it was approved because the people who approved it adopted it into the city plan. So let's go back to, the park board doesn't have the power to do that. The city had the power to do that, and the city adopted this master
when was
park
that?
plan.
But the city also has the right to be able to change it.
Absolutely, but have a conversation about it. And that never happened. This is the first time we're actually having a conversation.
Now let's go
But I
back
just
to-
wanted to, I want to be on the record here to say, the city adopted this plan.
But you know what?
It was adopted,
There's gotta be a compromise if you're gonna move
Yes.
forward.
absolutely.
No,
And that's
and
what we're-
it's
that's
not
exactly
gonna
what
get
we're
off the
saying.
table
Right.
without a compromise.
That's right,
And there's been some compromise thrown out here.
a ton,
So
so,
I think we're in agreement now that we
Yeah.
need to pare this back, look at what phase one, the bare minimum we can do for a phase one, and move forward from there, right? I mean, that's what my take on this
For about
is.
$1.5 million in today's.
but you can't tell us we only get $1.5 million. We're gonna tell you what it costs for the bare minimum. That's what you said,
Right.
okay?
And then we'll
But
more
if
likely.
you're putting a stipulation already on here without even knowing what is needed, then you're not being transparent or at least truthful in what the process is gonna look
Well,
like.
our street master plan has Henry Clay
This
for
is
$9
not,
million.
but I'm not talking about,
We're
I'm not
not-
here as
we're not
on a
approving that
planning and
either.
zoning committee. I'm not here about streets. I'm here about the park.
which has $150,000 a year in possible money for capital improvement projects.
Okay, and again, I go back to the city adopted the plan, and so we collectively can work through what that looks like. But to say, you can do this, but only up to $1.5 million, we don't know what we're faced with.
Yeah.
We don't know when they take a look, all the damage that stormwater has caused, and the things that have to get done to that park, it might be 2 million. I can't tell you
Keep in
that.
mind, this is a capital improvement plan back in 2021, after the last lake lot was bought. In that capital improvement plan that was passed by the board was for
That's right.
money to spend out in that park. Obviously, it never happened. So a master plan that's adopted doesn't automatically mean it's going to be approved when it's time to seek approval. We have done approval for some maintenance work for streets because we have the funding for it. We can't approve to redo Henry Clay.
Yeah, I
Can't
think,
approve.
And
asphalt
I'm not,
labeling
I don't wanna mix apples and
Yeah,
oranges between
but
streets and
it's all the
parks.
same thing. We have funding
I
restraints.
totally
And
understand.
that's the same across
Yeah.
all departments, and
I-
we have to live within that $150,000
yeah,
per year.
I don't wanna put a
That's right.
stipulation of 1.5
That's what I mean, like,
million,
let's
whatever.
figure out what it
Let's
is.
figure out what it's gonna cost.
And then
but
we come back to the
can't
table.
be upset if we say, if it does come back at 3 million. and we
Then
say,
that's a different, right, we
well,
gotta
can't-
figure out
We
what that,
can't do that.
right,
So-
and then we figure out what can we do at that point.
Right.
But until we know, for
Right.
us to put stipulations on something that we're doing blind, I think in fairness to everybody, let's figure out what it's gonna cost and then we'll deal with it.
Yeah, I think the speculation is, it's not that's what it is more or less like, if it's more than this,
Yeah,
then
then,
how can we support that?
right,
I agree.
right, and I agree with you on that,
We
100%.
we have to have the ability to support it before we can move forward with it. So if it comes back at $2 million, we have to be able to justify it. How are we gonna get that money? How are we gonna
That's right.
implement it? It can't just be it's $2 million, let's move forward, we'll figure it out. You know what I mean? So.
And I think to the point of like the street master plan, I think if the park master plan wasn't like, oh, well, we have to do this and then do that, to do that. Like the street master plan had all of these different areas around town, and it's like, this is highest priority, this is next priority, like this is, this is your 20 years out, like what you're probably gonna have to do. So it like broke it down to like, hey, we know that this isn't realistic, but like, here's probably like for our funding. So like, you can still have the pie in the sky on there and say like, this is our dream, but like, here are our options to get to where we're like feasible at like the different price points if we're not
I
able
think
to
that's in the
fundraise, if
plan.
we're not able to get grants. I
I think
didn't
it's,
see it in there.
I
but-
thought it was in there because we talked about, the reason why we went with the phase that we did first with the playground, was because of how important it is to the actual park itself, right? Everything pretty much revolves around the playground. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we went in that direction with that phase of it. Because it addressed stormwater, it addressed certain things that foundationally, we wouldn't be spending, like there was overlap, we wouldn't be spending double money to redo something if we did a phase out of turn. So,
Yeah, I think if we maybe don't think about it as phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, more like option A, option B, option C, so they can kind of
Digest it better.
be more interchangeable in the fact of what can we afford,
Yes.
it's like, we can do this, we don't have the money for this,
Right.
but, this can happen without phase 1 happening, that type of thing.
Right.
So I think we need that kind of flexibility.
Yeah.
Kevin, can I ask you a question real quick? Sure. When was the last time the pond was dredged?
I don't know that it's ever been dredged. It was expanded. I think at that time it might have been dredged. It was actually made larger some years ago, like
a long,
predates me. Does
Yeah.
anybody know offhand?
a long time, because
It
I
was-
was
It was pretty small and it was enlarged. I think that was,
pre-2017 at least.
yeah.
I don't think it went deeper, I just think it went bigger.
And,
Yeah.
just, I know you don't know this for sure, but rough estimate, what do you think a dredging would cost?
There's a
Again,
lot to
won't
that
hold you to
because
it.
it has to be kept dry and bypassed.
Yeah, sure.
I don't have a guess on that. It'd take a bulldozer, take fill, put a liner in it. There's a lot of variables. I'll just throw a number, maybe 30.
Okay, thank you.
Don't know.
No, fair enough.
30K.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you guys, we're getting closer to that 100K.
I mean, that's fair enough, because when you said quite expensive, I was thinking 100K.
Yeah,
So 30K, I know that's a large number still, especially with what we have, but that's why I was curious, because obviously that's something we need to work in. We're trying to make it safe and.
Have we had any engineer work down there yet? I mean, the
No,
engineer came
so
out.
I talked to a stormwater engineer twice this year about that. We spitballed. I don't have a hard quote. I can obtain one for the work we talked about here. It didn't get any further than a spitball, so I can ask for a formal engineering quote, and that would be in such a way that it could either be, we could try to do it in-house, or it could be done either way, so they'll write it in crayon in case we do it. But, and then an engineer's estimate on that work as well, so
Okay.
I can
You can get
come
an
back
estimate
with
for it,
quotes on
yeah.
that.
Please do.
And Lisa, you may have touched on it, but when it comes to the stormwater corrections that need to be done, wouldn't that come from the stormwater funding as opposed to?
If we wanted to vote it that way.
yeah. if
But
you
we have a
were-
lot of stormwater issues that need to be done. I'm not willing to vote that way. Because we have so many. We got stormwater RFP out for
Well,
a
he's already
consultant
got-
quotes on
Like I
that.
said, he's got a list of stuff already.
Yeah.
It could come out next year, it could not come out this year out of the stormwater fund. We have a stormwater pre-master plan scheduled for this year. So we're booked for this year for storm funding. And we could look at it next year, 2027.
I got a question for you. Would it come out of the park funding or would it come out of stormwater funding?
That's what we were just talking
That's the
Stormwater-
point, is
That
that
is
they
Good
commingle it.
question.
You know what I mean? I think it's, I mean,
You could almost do a 50-50
You
possibly.
could, you
Well,
could look
right.
at that either way, honestly.
Right.
I'm just saying, if we want to keep our, I mean, we've got houses flooding, so we can't pull money out of stormwater to go towards parks. But if we can figure out a way, I guess what I'm saying is, I can't get behind pulling money out of stormwater to go towards parks right now, just because, like I said, we have houses.
And you
flooding.
shouldn't, you shouldn't.
We gotta fix. the
What we're saying is, don't take money out of the parks, because then for us to be able to improve the parks, like we have, in Ashland Ridge, there's a whole blank slate. We've got a park right in there, and it doesn't look like a park because it doesn't, but Ashland Ridge, right? So there's a lot of things that we need to be doing. And that's why we said, let's do one at a time, because we're limited, right, in the size of our community and what we can generate. So, we just want to be able to support the parks and not have that money diverted, you know.
No one's mentioned about diverting any $1 from parks to stormwater.
Mhm.
It's not even come up in
Yeah.
discussion.
No, that's
even the
good.
public.
That's good,
Now,
because that wasn't in the past,
Now,
so
with
thank you.
downtown parking, that's another story. Sorry.
So I guess we're talking about a bunch of different things, and that the main park is like the biggest park.
Mhm.
And everybody loves water features, as we've learned. And I think we all kind of knew that. So like, if the small pond in the main park is an issue for like just upkeep and all that, why don't we try to look at, we bought Ashland Lake, which is a bigger, like prettier lake in my opinion.
That's what our
So,
intent was.
Like, why don't you start with that though? Like, just put a walking trail around it, like one pavilion and one like small playground. Then like everybody has like a.
Because believe it or not,
But
right?
it's like another water.
No,
feature
look,
with,
I hear,
woods
and
all.
we
Like,
had this conversation,
Yeah.
and the challenge is, believe it or not, people don't even know where that is.
I always forget it's there.
Right, everybody forgets it's there, everybody's here.
Well, because it looks like it's private
And-
now. Like I've
Yeah,
like
it
walked over there
was.
before and been like, am I allowed to be here? And I'm like, no, I'm confident this is a
Yeah.
park, but like you feel like you're on somebody's property
Yeah.
when you go.
And we could there were grants that we talked about
Mhm.
for that, for fishing and all of that. So there is money that can be, to your point, Rick, finding a really good grant writer who can help, because there's a lot of money to be had over there. So if we can find grants that can pay for that and put the trail around it, and put the bridge like they talked about, that would be great, because that would, that would serve a population of our community that likes the pond, you know what I mean, that likes the fishing and all of that. The other thing we talked about was potentially, because of what it costs us, I was just saying that the pump is, I think, $3,500 or so for that pond, and we have to replace it like every 2 years.
There's a Honda pump?
Oh, wow.
I think it was actually 5,000 or 6,000, and it's about 3 years old. It's been doing okay.
So then we're doing,
Hanging in there.
we're hanging in there, but they constantly, but it takes a lot of maintenance. It takes a lot of maintenance, because when that algae and other stuff gets in there, it clumps up the pump. And then something else, there was like people had thrown something in the pond and it got sucked into the pump.
Yeah, honestly, they're always throwing stuff in the pond. Bites.
They do, they throw bites and all of it. You'd be surprised. When you dredge that,
Oh,
I bet you'd find Jimmy Hoffa in there.
Yeah, so I
But
think
yeah,
we
so
gotta
maybe a one
plan.
feature, you know what I mean, in place of that or something.
I'd like to just say, I think it's more than a water feature. It's not like a fountain. I mean, I know there's a fountain in it. But when you spend time, I don't know, I'm not sure if I've seen any of you at the park, but I go there because I live near there. I'm there pretty much every day and at different times of the day. And so, you know, depending on the season and the time of day, like it draws people in different ways. And it is really lovely to see people just wandering along the edge, holding their children's hands, looking at the turtles and the frogs and, you know, using a dip net and trying to get, you know, whatever is in there out and just looking at it, you know, being little scientists. And that wouldn't happen if it was just simply a water feature. And the dredging kind of, like, I don't really know much about pond maintenance, but the dredging worries me a little bit just because I've had a few experiences of seeing ponds sort of managed in not so friendly ways and seeing the turtles, you know, come flying out of there and crossing the highway and people jumping out of their cars trying to save the turtles. And I really wouldn't want to see that happen in our park. So I just want to put that out there. I think that words matter and it is more than just like a water feature. So, thanks.
So we have a plan together.
Yeah.
And we'll get started.
And I do think it's obvious that, we do need to try and save the pond. You know, the previous plans, you know, did look good on paper, but just the uprising that we have gotten.
Yeah,
the
look,
public-
we're not married to it.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
and
you
I'm
know,
just
honestly,
saying,
we
in
weren't.
our-
We
in
just
our
said, okay,
planning,
community.
You know,
you've met.
if nothing else, we need to
Yes,
make that clear that we need to keep that,
Mhm.
you know, if there is ways we can improve it, if there is ways we can reduce the maintenance cost, increasing the flow that you said needs to be done, you know, that needs to be part of the plan. You know, if you've ever come to one of our Alderman meetings, you know, it's very, very light attendance. But,
same as ours.
I was actively inviting people tonight to come to this.
Yeah.
oh, yeah, and
We do, we invite
and we've got
people.
a lot more people here tonight than we typically
yeah.
have at our board meetings.
A lot of
Absolutely.
the
But
public
we
meetings that
did-
have closed door meetings like that, they're not inviting for
Right.
some reason, which makes no sense.
But
I have. been to-
shortly after that hit the press, we had a lot of people come, and
That's
it
good.
was very, very one-sided
Yeah.
that don't get rid of
But
our
if that's the
pond.
case, like I said, then we go back to the drawing board, we don't throw the master park plan out.
Exactly.
We say, okay,
Exactly.
then if that's the case and we can salvage the pond and do all of that, then you make that the feature. You know, when I say that, you build the park around that where, again, in that area, we wanted to have the kids' playground area just shifted just enough that, you know, again, using the land better, because the bridges have to get fixed, that
They do.
culvert, all of that, I mean, it's got to get fixed,
Yeah.
it's not, you know,
I think to be clear too, our vote was not to like burn the master plan at the stake. It was just to not like adopt it and say, yeah, we're going forward with this version.
see, the way it came across on the meeting was that the whole plan was thrown out the window,
Sounds good to me.
that they shut the whole plan down.
I think we just didn't adopt it. So we didn't say like, no part of this can ever be done. It's
Yeah.
just like, we're saying we're not taking this whole package and moving it forward. We're
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah, we didn't wanna spend $300,000 for $3.5 million phase one.
And
That was,
Again,
This meeting should have happened
Thank
before
you.
that meeting.
Thank you.
And
We
I-
should have had a lot of other conversations.
like for me, I don't wanna throw this out, because if nothing else, we have paid for this.
That's
Like, this is something we paid for, so if we toss this, we're gonna do something with the park, that means we're paying for something
Yeah, we're not
else.
we're not gonna redo it. We've
Right.
got,
Let's take the ideas that work, we've got a phase one and move forward from here,
Yeah.
an idea of it, let's get some pricing behind it and let's
Yeah.
move forward.
that's why I said, since PDS designed that, I'll just go back to them and ask them, what is it gonna cost? This is what the, the scale back looks like. What is it gonna cost for you to put that together for us so we can present it?
And this will be the last thing I say, I promise. You know, there's only like 3 people in here that are being paid to be here tonight. So I appreciate the community coming, but I appreciate what you guys are doing. You guys aren't paid to be on this board. You guys aren't paid to get talked bad about on Facebook. Like, we do appreciate the work that you put into this. And at the end of the day, we just have to make decisions with taxpayers' money, right?
Absolutely.
And I think this board is just, we want the same thing. We want a better park. We just gotta do it
Yeah.
financially. the
Well,
right
we're
way.
glad that we have a board of aldermen that we can do this and have these kind of conversations and do this collaboratively.
I hope
So-
going forward that that's the feeling, we are
Yeah.
going to be able to collaborate and move forward. We do have that fiduciary responsibility to our constituents, but, let's make something, I mean,
Yeah.
let's take something out of this, and move forward, and let's go from there.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to, because this was a special meeting.
Yep.
Special
Lauren,
day
you got
for
anything to
something.
add? You're the only one that hasn't spoken all night.
Well, I figure I've already caused enough trouble the last couple of weeks, so I didn't want to make any more trouble. But I think it's been a really robust conversation. I like that. I like the robustness, and I like the back and forth, because sometimes you can sift through all the fog and what rises to the top. And I think what has risen to the top is the drainage down by the first playground and in the pond. I think those are the first things that we have to focus on. Apart, without even thinking about the master plan, I think we gotta focus on those 2 things first. Get those taken care of, and that's gonna solve a lot of problems. And people will feel better about how things are progressing.
Yeah, agree.
And I will say, as I just mentioned, the public comments that we were getting, there was nothing negative about the plan other than the
That's
pond.
plus.
So I think overall, there's some very good ideas
And
in
the
there.
cost.
Yeah, just the
Yeah,
cost.
and the cost, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think the public even said anything about the cost. 'cause
No,
they're-
not
'cause
back then. It
They
wasn't.
said a little bit.
This was,
Yeah.
this
I
was
think
like,
Yeah, they loved it.
over, this was the roadie man.
Everybody
Yeah.
thinks,
Yeah.
everybody thinks the city of Ashland is just floating in cash, but those of us that have to approve the budget know that we're kind of strapped for cash, as a
Right.
matter of fact.
They think we have Scrooge McDuck's ball, that's where we're having our meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Well,
so
thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
All right, no problem. So meeting is adjourned.